Hello, welcome to JagaVision, episode 9. Looking forward to a really awesome episode. Really appreciate you tuning in every week. And like you to know that we have a live chat going every week too, so if you want to participate in that, lots of fun to have you. We're doing these sessions every Thursday at 1 p.m. Different guests come on and we enjoy some teas together. We get a sense of their perspective on how tea has impacted their life. We talk a little bit about what's going on right now in the world, and just have a good session. So encourage you to check out our webpage, jagasilk.com. Generally speaking, on the top page, there's a list of what what guest is going to be on next, what tea we're going to be drinking, so you can get a sense of what's going on. So today, we're going to have Jim Finlayson join us. He's a competitive runner, a coach, fastest runner in his age group, actually, in Canada. He used to have the Guinness World Record for the beer mile, which is pretty rad. And he's been drinking JagaSilk Maccha for quite some time. Actually, wow, yeah, definitely more than 10 years. So I think we might even be nearing in on 13 years plus that Jim's been enjoying our matcha, and it's been doing some good things for him. So we'll bringing him on. And Sherry Ann from Sister Speak, she joins us every week. She's going to be joining us after her live performance finishes. She does her show from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, and she actually invites us on, and we get a chance to discuss a little bit about tea on her show. Musical performances every Thursday at noon. If you want to tune in on sisterspeak.com/ patreon.com/sisterspeak. Jim Finlayson, you can find at jimfinlayson.com. So yeah, today I like to always kind of begin the show with just trying out a tea that I've never had before, get a sense of what's possible. I was having some blind cuppings the other day that were quite interesting. Gonna make my kettle temperature 70 degrees C, and gonna preheat my teapot here. Essentially, I'm gonna see what I can do in terms of making myself a longjing. So this particular longjing that I'm gonna try today is from Shihu, so Westlake. It's kind of the official origin for this tea. It smells amazing. It better smell amazing. That's quite an expensive longjing. For longjing, I find that I like to use 60 degrees C. Depending on when it was harvested, is it pre-Qingming? Is it after Qingming? Basically, is it an early April, late March pick, or is it mid-April, late April pick? It's going to change how I brew it. Generally speaking, when the leaves are a little bit older, they're a little bit more dense, and I find that the flavors that I get out of them are best extracted through slightly hotter temperatures. So this one, though, I like to keep more like how I make my Japanese grains. This is quite a delicate selection, so I'm going to do 70 degrees centigrade. Generally speaking, and again, this has just been trial and error in the past, I've found that 1 minute and 15 seconds seems to be an ideal extraction time. I like 6 grams for every 180 mils. Smells toasty, delicate. I'm getting a sense that this tea was properly stored before sending it out our way. It's been interesting to try and get tea from China this year. Lots of political difficulties happening with the globe, and I think that we're just finding that that's impacting procurement of tea. Yeah, so I hope you can see that. Bring it closer to the camera there. So little tiny leaves. Give that a taste. I love eating longjing. It tastes like little senbei crackers or something. You can see that's pretty carefully put together. I don't know if you can see the leaf okay, but that's a complete bud set. 2 leaves in a bud that have been pressed into the sword shape that the style is famous for. This is a great example of a parched green. You notice the liquid color is not like that deep green that you see out of a steamed green tea, like the Enshiyu Lu we were drinking with Dave Upshaw of Canoe, or even more so Gyokuro or Sencha from Japan. Really lightweight in terms of that color, but again, generally speaking, that aromatic's gonna be nice. Smells really delicate. I'm getting kind of a grassy aromatic. Smells a little dusty. Sign to me that perhaps I haven't brewed this ideally. Flavor-wise, it's tasting a bit weak. Under-extracted. That's not the tea's fault. Again, that's my fault. Generally speaking, when you're brewing a green tea or a tea in general that you've never had before, even if it's the same style of tea, your first cup is generally going to be the least impressive, because you're going to find perhaps some different adjustments that you could do to make it taste that much better. But yeah, that's it's a decent tasting tea. Smells better once I give it some time to really immerse itself in the liquid. I find decanting tea, like just letting it have a moment to kind of find itself and for those molecules and flavor aromatics to disperse themselves into the liquid, really does make a difference for flavor. So we've had some more viewers join us. Just a reminder that we do have a chat that you can click on if you're joining us on our live. It's in the right hand side of the screen, top right. You should be able to click to join the chat if you so choose. If you have any questions while we're brewing and we're having our conversations with our guests, you're welcome to pipe in. Oh. Yeah, the more I let that sit, the better it's tasting. I'm always concerned that as the tea bar is closed, we don't have as much water running through the system, and so I'm always concerned about stale water. Today I made sure to run the water and make hopefully have more oxygen, less residual flaws in the water. I find that makes a big difference for enjoyment. Yeah, that's smelling really nice now. I'm getting some good umami, the parched sort of that toasty aromatics coming through. Yeah, quite nice. I think I can do another infusion there. Again, I love to keep the scale untered after I've done my first brew. That just lets me, it just lets me have a little bit more control over absorption, so I can then fill to 180 without having to take into consideration the liquid absorption into the leaf. There was 9.3 grams absorbed into the leaf, so if I had tared the scale and I had noticed that, then my second infusion I would drop my total mass by the amount that was absorbed. So I'd be doing more like 171 or a little under 171. So there we go. This time I set the timer for 1:30. Oftentimes I extract my second infusions just as sort of a go-to method by dropping it to, by increasing by 30 seconds. This particular tea tasted really delicate, and I noticed that the acidity was starting to come out as it sat in the water there. So I didn't want to overdo it. I wouldn't want to bring out too much tannin with my next infusion. Nice. Okay. Longjing, it actually translates as dragon well. It's one of the top 10 famous teas of China. It's generally, to qualify as Longjing, it needs to be from Zhejiang province, ideally eastern Zhejiang, as close to Shihu as possible, or Westlake. That's kind of what's considered the correct terroir for this tea. A lot of times we find that the Chinese like to focus on the terroir being really important, just like the French like to focus on it with their wines. And just like wine, there are a lot of copies out there. I've seen some fantastic copies. I like it when people sell their Longjing that's not from the correct region as an anti-fake. And that's just a terminology that talks about recognizing that there is such thing as there is such thing as a true Longjing, but there's also such thing as the style of Longjing. And if you want to make a tea in the style of Longjing, then, but it's not the correct region, then call it an anti-fake. It just kind of makes sense. Second infusion. Okay, kind of hiding behind the scale there, but really grassy aromatic. I'm not really enjoying the wet fragrance on this liquid, but then it kind of turns and after I let it rest a little moment there, then the aromatics I get off it start to smell a little bit more complex and interesting. Yeah. So the story is that, or recently what we've been hearing for the last almost 10 years, is that that Longjing that's from Shihu is traditionally the best stuff, but we're actually seeing a movement towards people understanding that Eastern Zhejiang is too close to the big city, and it ends up getting pollution that interferes with the sun hitting the leaves and the development of the leaves as a result. And so sourcing from Western Zhejiang, which traditionally was of inferior quality to Eastern Zhejiang, is now, because of the air pollution, a much nicer cup of tea, which is, really sad if you think about it. It would be interesting to taste what it tasted like. Okay, so looks like one of our guests has joined us. We have Jim Finlayson, running competitor and coach, has joined us. Jim, we're live. Thank you for agreeing to meet up today, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Jared. Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, exciting. I was explaining to our viewers that we've known you for quite some time. I'd say you've been drinking our matcha for easily over a decade. I was just trying to think how close you are to our 15, years of existence.
It's going to be pretty close to that, actually.
Yeah, like pretty much.
It's been a long time.
Pretty much like at least, 13, 14 years you've been drinking JagaSilk? So
yeah, I would say around there. Yeah.
So amazing. So huge gratitude for that. Thank you. Also, I know you're very, very busy. So to make the time to join us is really appreciated. And,
pleasure.
Yeah.
Good being here.
So I was explaining that you are currently the fastest runner for your age group in Canada for the half marathon and marathon. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the 45 plus age demographic.
Fantastic. And you also do you do coaching, and you're very interested in health, is my understanding. I guess many athletes, I think it's part of survival, but I think how much of a role do you think your interest in just health food has helped with your running capabilities?
I think it's been really important. I think just in terms of recovery above all. What complicates it for me is I also have multiple sclerosis. And so about 15 years ago when I was diagnosed, or 16 years ago when I was diagnosed, I started to pay a lot more attention to what I was putting in my body, and just trying to, create I wasn't obsessive about it, but I would just try to create a fairly low inflammation diet, and so in terms of just general food, but then also adding in things like matcha and green tea, and that's really what started me on this matcha journey.
And didn't I remember you saying that through your challenges that you faced with MS and the bringing on sort of a more health focused perspective, you actually got some of your fastest times that you ever got in your life after sort of, I guess, deconstructing things and putting them back together again.
Yeah, I'm fortunate, I guess, in that my presentation of MS is a relapsing remitting, and so when it's it's not present, I can pretty much get back to normal function. But I think the added attention to sleep and diet has made a really big difference with respect of my performance and my recovery, and yeah.
All of the above.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about what you do? Like you're a competitive runner, you're a coach. Maybe you could. What is the perspective that you bring to that? And then maybe I have another question for you. Just our viewers perhaps don't know what MS is, so I just wanted to. I mean, most people do, but it would be nice to get your perspective on what it is as well. So, what do you do? And then some conversation about that. So, who is Jim Finlayson?
Right. So I work part-time as a employee down at Front Runners Footwear. So it's a running store in town in Victoria, and I'm there 2 days a week, and then the rest of my, I guess, work life is coaching, which is mostly online. I have a couple of groups that I meet up with once a week, but most of my work is online coaching, where I'll build somebody's training program, send it out to them weekly, take feedback, and just refine our goals and our the way we go about our weeks from the feedback. Nice. So yeah, those are the main things. Outside of that, I still race competitively. I'm 47 now, and I've been racing and running really for all of my life, for about 35 years.
Wow. You travel the world, right? Like you, I don't know, you telling me, oh, I'm going to Denmark, or hey, I'm going to Germany. I don't know. Like you seem to have like this amazing. I love your Instagram feed. It's just this amazing world tour we get to follow you on, and you take these beautiful photographs. And for our viewers who don't know this, Jim has also been our Team Jaga. Do we say coach? I don't know if we can technically call that a coach. We call you coach, Jim, but it's a little bit more laid back than perhaps your.
I think it's a little more laid back than that. But spiritual guide or something.
There you go. Yeah.
All things running. I don't know. Yeah,
very much,
like that.
Very much. And it's been really fun to have you on. But you. So what are some of the competitions that you run around the world? You also at one point had the Guinness Book of World Records for the beer mile.
Yeah, I held the beer mile world record for about 7 years. So that's a race where you drink a beer, run a lap of the track, and repeat it 4 times. So 4 beers, 4 laps of the track, and the total time is including the drinking is your final time. So I held that world record for about 7 years, and it's actually become a pretty big event. The world championships for that are going to be in July of this year. It's going to be a virtual race this year, but it is a worldwide thing now.
A virtual race?
A virtual race.
Does everybody do it in their own sort of track?
We're all going to video it. We have about a week over which we can do it, and just pick the day that is most suitable weather-wise, and we film it and send it in, and then they're going to have a half-hour spot on it as a virtual race, so we'll all be able to sit down and see how we did relative to others.
That's awesome.
It's pretty neat. So but yeah, I've traveled a lot. I mean, it's I think when I was younger, I was on a couple of national teams, and so where our teams were sent is where I went. But now I've raced in this area and in Canada for so many years that I've started to really long for more of an experiential race. And so over the last couple of years, I've traveled to Berlin and to Copenhagen and to Reykjavik, and just wanting to see new places and also participate in their events. And
that's pretty special, man, that you're able to make there's a lot of people that are unable to they want to run, they want to race competitively, but it's just so far out of reach, and it takes a certain amount of of dedication and performance
Yeah.
results to be able to do what you're doing. So that's pretty
Yeah, and
amazing.
I think, I mean, most of the, the events that I'm going to now, I'm not funded for these. I pay my way for them, but it's an important part of my life, and so I do want to keep experiencing those new experiences. So yeah.
Cool. Well, what? So I already talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but yeah, if you just wanted to talk about, um, let's bring it to matcha. Let's talk a little bit about matcha. What is it that connected the dots for you for your running and involving matcha in your daily routine and making it a medicinal part of your life and your performance?
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up as a tea drinker, more of a black tea drinker. As a runner, I think that the couple of things that I've always sought are ways to improve my performance, and ways to improve my recovery. And so where matcha enters, for me, I just found that it helped reduce inflammation, and there's some evidence that shows that it can be equivalent to having an ice bath.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and so just in order to be able to get back out there and train a little bit harder, and sooner, reducing inflammation, reducing recovery time is really important. I have, like, with the autoimmune stuff, so with the multiple sclerosis, when I've had some flare-ups, I've also had some sort of joint type stuff, kind of in conjunction with it, and so I've noticed an acute response to when I drink green tea or when I drink matcha, and the sensation in those joints, that I'll feel, they'll feel less fiery. They'll feel like the inflammation actually drops a little bit, pretty quickly and acutely. And it's not, I mean, I enjoy my coffee as well, but I don't get that response from coffee. And there are certain other foods that I could eat, like if I eat ice cream, for example, I'll actually notice the opposite effect. I'll feel like the joints feel more sore and a little thicker, and just not as mobile.
Very interesting. Why do you think that is? Is it there's a component in matcha that's I mean, we talk about it as an
Yeah.
anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
what is your research showing you is causing that, or is it just
Yeah, I mean, I think, like,
anecdotal?
you probably know the terminology a little bit better than I would, but like the polyphenols, the EGCGs in matcha, the catechins, like all these things contribute to, and I think the fact that matcha is the whole leaf, we're getting a more synergistic effect out of something like that than we would if say we take
Definitely.
a capsule, a pill, something like that. I think it's important to have the entire product,
Well, they say
when we address these things.
University of Colorado study was talking about how matcha has 120 times the antioxidants which are found in the polyphenols, than regular steeped green tea. So there's definitely something to be said about consuming it whole. What is it though so with multiple sclerosis? Maybe you can. What is multiple sclerosis? And
It's a response to the immune system, and it's so when the immune system gets kicked up, for whatever reason. It could be any number of things. It could be stress, it could be diet, it could be acute, like, trauma. It's the immune system overreacts, and then it starts to attack the myelin sheath, and so it affects the neuromuscular connection. So where I notice it, then I'd start to lose a little bit of sensation in my feet or my hands, and then I might start to lose a little bit of coordination. And when it's been at its worst for me, I would lose the ability to walk for periods of time, or at least to I can still move around and I can still walk, but I just, like, I'm not agile, and if there's any sort of, like, differentiation in the terrain, so if I'm on trails and I step on a root, I can't keep my coordination.
Right.
When it's flared up and when it's at its worst. And so, yeah, for me, I mean, I've never taken medication for it. I wanted to address it via exercise, sleep, and diet before any other means.
For sure, makes sense. I mean, there's different perspectives on pharmaceutical medicine. I'm of the opinion that oftentimes, as a society, we're encouraged to depend on it too quickly, and I think that there's so many amazing traditional medicines out there that can participate in a good health regime, and oftentimes there's elements within those traditional medicines that allow us to not have the same intense side effects that otherwise might happen. And so when we analyze, say, something that has a positive effect in traditional medicine, and we extract that element, and then we make it into a laboratory-produced pharmaceutical medicine, it no longer has the other compounds that are going to allow for it to, allow for it to have less of a bad effect on the system in terms of side effects. And for matcha in particular, you've mentioned how it really helps with that anti-inflammatory element. Have you a story I often tell when I bring you up quite a bit when we're talking about our matcha to athletes, or when we're talking about the healthful component. I remember a story, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you noticed a difference between when a matcha is fresh and when it is not fresh in terms of how it interacts with your system in terms of that anti-inflammatory power. Is that something I made up in my head, or is this a true story?
I think that probably was the case. Okay. But honestly, like, I get my matcha from you, and I know it's always fresh, and so I haven't actually had experience with matcha that hasn't been fresh in a long time. So so those memories have become a lot more distant.
This is 10 years ago. I remember you saying that because you would sometimes buy our matcha at one of our beautiful retailers, and one of them wasn't the best at practicing first in, first out. And so I remember the story of you buying matcha that you found was actually past that ideal date. And for our viewers, 3 months you start to taste 3 months from the mill date, you start to taste a disintegration of umami. But we found that at about 9 months, you definitely notice a drop in that medicinal integrity.
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
Right. And so that mill date we find to be critically important for accessing. I don't think it completely disappears. I haven't had a chance to analyze or send to a lab fresh matcha versus old matcha. So this is purely anecdotal, but that story always struck home to me. And again, it is over 10 years ago. So
and like back then I was experimenting a little bit more with different types of matcha, different purveyors. But yeah, I mean, I'm very grateful for you guys and what you guys do here. And for the confidence that I can have knowing that I can come in and get some great matcha and it's going to be fresh.
That's our goal anyway.
So thank you. Yeah.
Actually, for today's session, I've set up some interesting elements. What I've done, actually, I'll put it into the bowl here, is I've actually prepared the mill so that I can mill a little bit live for the audience, and they can get a sense of what we're actually doing here at JagaSilk when it comes to keeping things fresh. So I don't know if everybody can see that, but that's some tencha that we're going to be drinking, and we've sent some off to Jim, and Sister Speak, who'll be joining us soon, was also sent a package. We were actually quite worried about that, Jim. Sherry Ann from Sister Speak, we sent her package out a little bit late in the game, and thank goodness you live in Victoria. You were able to just kind of swing by and grab the selections we're going to be cupping today, but hers arrived this morning at 11.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
good timing.
Do you want to maybe open up your package, your pouch there, and get things sort of going? We can turn on the kettle. The kettle, when we're cupping the tencha, we're going to be doing 90 degrees centigrade. So that's going to be, for you doing vessel transfers, or our viewers doing vessel transfers at home, that's going to be 1 vessel transfer from boiling. So you'll preheat whatever you're going to be brewing in, and then you can actually drop the water into the bowl that you're going to be, or the cup that you're going to be straining it into. But for the time being, if you want to just set your kettle up, we'll just wait for Cheyenne to join us just a little bit longer. She's just a little delayed coming off her live show, and then we'll get to drinking it. But you want to tell us, a question I had was, how has the current pandemic, COVID-19, how has that interacted with you as a runner, as an athlete, and what have you been doing to sort of continue your work as a coach? You did mention some of it being virtual, but you did also say that you were running with people.
Yeah, most of my work is online. And so even the 2 groups that I was meeting with before, I still send out the full week schedule online, and then we just meet for one of the sessions each week. So I'm continuing to email all of my clients, and just, trying to encourage everybody to stay healthy. I mean, I think we're fortunate in Canada, and in particular in Victoria, that we haven't had a mandate that has stopped us from being able to go outside and exercise, that we want to respect physical distancing and respect, both our concerns and concerns of others. But here we've been able to, here we've been able to run. And so, awesome. It hasn't, I guess the day-to-day hasn't really been affected that much. What has changed is that, I and a lot of my athletes have lost their race goals. And so the shift has had to happen from, sort of having an end goal, a race goal, sort of point to the season, to finding something that's a little bit more sustainable, trying to reframe, I guess, our perceptions around what we're doing here, and working on becoming better athletes. And
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and so that's kind of been I know a number of other top runners across the country that sort of have this idea of remaining 80% fit and 100% healthy right now, because there is always that risk when you're training hard that injuries are going to crop up. Mm-hmm. And so most of them are trying to sort of hit that kind of framework, and I'm loosely trying to target that as well, certainly with myself and certainly with my athletes, and sometimes with myself. With myself, I tend to experiment a little bit more, and try to have a trickle down from what I'm doing to what I want my athletes to do. So I'll play a little bit more and maybe push the boundaries a little bit more with me, and see how I react. But yeah, I mean, it hasn't changed my day-to-day. I still get out and run every day. I think personally, I think that being outside and being, now that it's sunny, especially, being in the sun is one of the best things we can do for our health during this time. Makes sense, and so, I think it's important to keep moving. In fact, a lot of the places where I normally run, I'll see a lot more cyclists now, or a lot more runners now. So there are people that are getting out and that maybe haven't even done it before, and are beginning it because gyms were closed, and other places, pools were closed, other places to exercise were closed.
Yeah, it makes you got to go outside. You got to. I mean, I also am very grateful that we have that opportunity to exercise outside. That we're not in a country where things have gotten to the point where we have to basically stay inside and not go anywhere. So very grateful for that. I think on Vancouver Island we have our last case in recovery right now that we're aware of. I'm sure there's more that we're not aware of, and I'm a little bit scared myself that people are embracing this reopening of the economy a little bit too quickly, and not taking the same precautions that they were, that allowed for us to get to where we are, where things are getting a little bit better. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope that everybody's just super careful, and that there's no issues at all, and we're all going to be in into this recovery, and it's going to continue, and everything's going to be good. Missing the Times Colonist run this year was kind of sad. We really enjoy doing that with you. So I can, when you were talking about the loss of race goals, I mean, I'll be honest, for myself, I haven't been running. And it was the TC10K that got me running, and
those
instructions from
big motivating factors for people.
And I wish that it were different, that I wish that, and the desire is strong. So I keep telling myself, I think every week, okay, this is the week. Gonna get out there.
I've been working really hard with people just like you to try to reframe what running is in their life and to make it as part of a healthy lifestyle, first and foremost. And I think that there's so many benefits that we gain from movement that are reach well beyond race goals, well beyond that end race. And it's I can certainly appreciate the motivation that races provide, so it can be a little bit of work to shift that perception around what we're doing and why we're doing it, but it has become more of a meditation and more of a almost like a yoga practice for me and for a lot of my athletes as well, that will still do the same stuff, but how we approach it mentally shifts a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just our perspective really needs to change if we want to keep some sort of sustainability to our exercise regimes, or if we want to improve on them, or if we want to move forward, for sure.
I think the important thing is just is cultivating this stuff as part of a healthy lifestyle.
Which has always been your goal, right? Like
I drink matcha because it's a part of my healthy lifestyle. I run because it's a part of my healthy lifestyle.
Brilliant segue. That was good.
Yeah. Let me go heat up my kettle. I think it's warm, but I'm just gonna reheat it, and then we'll be back in a sec.
That sounds good. All right. So we're just again here with Jim Finlayson, talking about interacting with COVID-19 as a competitive runner and as a coach. We had a chance to talk about how he's embraced healthful choices in his life, and we're about to actually make some tencha together. So it looks like things are delayed on Sister Speak's side. So I think we're just going to have to continue and move forward in the session. And when she joins us, we'll just have her catch up. So what we're drinking today is, this is, again, I showed the viewers this tencha. Tencha, for those that don't know, is matcha before it's milled. So you can't just take green tea leaves and powder them and call it matcha. That's not what matcha is. To qualify as a matcha, it needs to be shade grown, ideally held under a system called tanakabuse, or like a shelf system that holds these shade growing perforated canvas mats above the plants, and then by filtering the sunlight about 3 weeks before harvest, you extend the growing time, and you're able to focus that much more umami and medicinal integrity into the tips before harvest. And really, it's all about that first flush. The first flush meaning that, Camellia sinensis is an evergreen plant. So when we're harvesting the young leaves that appear after its winter dormancy, it's this really long time period that it's focusing all those volatile oils and giving us those incredible flavors, that incredible medicinal impact. And today what we're drinking is a matcha Samidori blend. So this is by a farmer that we've visited quite regularly, Mr. Takaki in Fukuoka, Japan. He's in a village called Hoshinomura. We've had the opportunity to help him put the shade covers onto his plants, doing 3 days of that with him. And he's shown us some hand rolling techniques for sencha production. Last October, we took the team and visited him, and we made some kolcha or crimson tea together. That was really fun. And so excited, actually, if you can believe this, Jim, episode 9, Jaga Silk being a matcha specialty company, this is our first episode drinking matcha.
Oh, wow. Okay. Amazing. I feel honored.
So if you look through our old Instagram posts, there's actually one, I think, of Jim trying to haul away a 10-kilogram box. He drinks it that much. So this should be hopefully a special experience. You get to. So what we're gonna do first here, Jim, is we're gonna be drinking tencha how you would drink it for a cupping. So before it's milled, really ideally before it gets to the point where we're drinking it right now, where it's shiage tencha, where it's kind of like gotten to the point where it's just ready to mill, we would taste it. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to tear your brewing vessel on a scale, and I sent you a pouch, or I gave you a pouch of 5 grams of tea.
Yes.
And I want you to empty the entire pouch into
the brewing vessel.
Brewing vessel. And then once we've gotten 5 grams, we're going to drop 90-degree centigrade water on it, and we're going to weigh that water until it reaches 150 grams.
Okay.
It's going to be a pretty full bowl if you were using these that I'm using, but you're using a jar, right? You want to show the?
I'm going to use a jar, and I'm just going to go and get my kettle. It sounds like it's brewed to a boil, so
Awesome. Are you able to reorient to the far right corner of the table you're at? On the live stream right now, our viewers can see your blue bowl there, but it can't see anything closer to the camera.
Nothing closer to the camera. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. So just put this stuff out here.
If it's possible. I know you have some limitations with your headset, so if we need it to be off camera, that's fine too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. How's that looking?
That looks perfect.
Is
That's
that better?
great. Yeah. Now we can see.
Okay.
Lovely.
Okay, I'm just going to grab the kettle. One sec.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. All right. And hopefully pretty soon here we have Sister Speak join us, as it's sad to continue this process without her, as I know that she's really, Sherry-Ann is extremely fascinated by the healthful impact of matcha. So just give me a sec while I see. Oh, I think she's joined us.
Hi.
Oh, is that? We have Sherry-Ann from Sister Speak joining us. Hello, Sherry-Ann.
Hello, how are you?
Very good, very good. Good to have you on the show. Really powerful episode of your live stream that was on before ours. Some pretty deep thinking stuff. So, and some beautiful songs. Sherry-Ann, meet Jim Finlayson. Jim Finlayson, meet Sherry-Ann.
Hi, Jim.
How are you?
How are you?
Nice to see you.
Jim is a competitive runner and coach, and he's the fastest runner in Canada for his age group, which I love to tell people. And and he's been drinking I get to brag about this too. He's been drinking JagaSilk matcha for almost our entire existence as a company. So he's either at 13 or 14 years of drinking JagaSilk matcha.
I think it's got to be around there. Yeah.
And then Jim, for your reference, Sherry-Ann here, she's a musician. We invite her on the show because JagaSilk's been sponsoring her tours around the world for the past 6 years with tea. And also there's the nepotism of her being my sister. And
amazing.
Yeah, some really beautiful albums that I encourage our viewers to check out. You can go to patreon.com/sisterspeak to find her live performances archived and also watch them live. You can also follow her on Instagram and see them there. JimFinlayson.com is where you're going to go and check out information on Jim's coaching. Also, Jim, just I don't know if you knew this, if it's ever come up in discussion, but Sherry-Ann actually went. She was a field hockey player for quite some time, a goalie, and very athletic her whole life, and is still involved with. I think Blockstar is the name of the company that she's sometimes helps out with.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, and she's also had matcha be a part of her athletic career as well. So, we were talking.
Very true.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So, Jared, have you already put the water in the tea leaves?
I have not.
Sure.
So, Sherry-Ann, we're just basically at the point where we're about to brew. So, if you want to empty that tencha, I was explaining to our viewers what tencha is, but for your knowledge, it's basically matcha before it's been milled into a powder. So we're going to be drinking it like you would drink a loose tea, but we're going to burn it on purpose, because burning it with this 90-degree water is actually going to let us taste the flaws that might be there. Okay?
Okay.
So we're going to do 5 grams of tea, which is basically empty the whole package, into the brewing vessel, and then I want you to use 150 grams of tea. Oh, sorry, of water.
5 grams of tea? That means this whole reserve tea package?
No. So you have so I sent you some Samidori blend, the matcha, and I also sent you a little pouch at 5 grams of tencha.
Oh, I didn't see that. Right here.
Yeah. And so what I want you to do is I want you to open that up. That's the matcha before it gets milled into a powder. And we're going to drink it like you would at auction. So you're going to empty that into your brewing vessel, and you're going to put 90-degree water on top. Jim, you can totally just go ahead and start that process. I know that your water, we want to move quickly.
So I'm just gonna put it into a different vessel first. Check the temperature.
Yes, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
what you're going to do is that boiling water, if you drop it into another vessel and it measures at 90, that's perfect. If it measures at 80, that means that you can put the water directly onto the tea right out of the kettle.
Okay. And you're looking for 150 milliliters or grams of water.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
150 grams of water.
And when I put that water on, you're going to smell that toastiness come right out. Oh, it's just amazing. Wow. So,
I've never had tencha.
yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, and
Wow, it smells so good.
doesn't it smell amazing?
Yeah.
So this is what gets milled into a fine powder. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's really nice. You know, guys,
How long do you steep it for?
it's a cupping, so that's actually not written in stone. We're going to go for roughly a minute,
Okay.
and then you're going to push it back and smell it and get a sense of all of the beautiful aromatics that it has. I'm using a traditional cupping set, so I actually scoop out the tencha rather than pouring it through a sieve. And this is what they use at auction.
And you said a minute here, yeah?
That's right.
Okay.
And then I'm going to get a sense of the tea. So I put it off to the side, and then what I do is I grab a spoon, a little bit smaller than I'd like, but this gives me a sense. Yeah, lots of umami. Really kind of like a roasted rice aromatic. Do you guys smell it as it's brewing, like that kind of toastiness?
Yeah, well, I can smell it before.
Sorry, what's that, Jim?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it smells great. Yeah.
And then once you've gotten to the minute, you're gonna move it to your, like, filter it through to a different vessel.
Okay.
And then what's surprising is just how palatable this is. You'd expect it to be just really unpleasant because of that really hot temperature. And normally what happens with a Japanese green tea, because of how they're produced, especially when you're working with these younger first flush leaves, you get a really intense, astringent quality to it that's quite unpleasant. Whereas this is definitely astringent and powerful, but not in an unpalatable level.
Do you want us drinking with a spoon, or are we able to just go straight from the?
Go straight from it if you want.
Yeah,
Just give it a nice slurp when you're drinking it, so you can throw that liquid into your retroolfactory senses.
Oh wow!
And
Yeah.
get a sense of the tencha. Isn't that amazing?
That is a beautiful flavor.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very deep. It's very rich.
So this is what turns into the matcha that we're going to be having. So it'd be kind of interesting to put that off to the side. What are you smelling though? Like, are you picking up on the roasted rice and the kind of the skin of an asparagus that I'm getting here, or what are we tasting, guys?
I definitely get something vegetable-y, like vegetal.
Yeah, vegetable.
Yeah, like sort of almost. Yeah, I guess maybe a bit of a edamame kind of a
Yeah, right. Totally.
flavor for me, and yeah.
Yeah, and a sweet corn.
Yeah. I find actually a lot of Mew often brings this up when we're drinking Takaki's teas. She can often taste a sweet corn flavor. And yeah, it seems to be part of what, like, the terroir of the farm run by the Takakis.
Interesting.
Yeah, lovely. This is actually a blend, hey, of multiple cultivars. So I really get into these single cultivar selections that we get from Fujioka, and they've been really inspiring for us. But I think it's so interesting to have these blends as well. Do you guys want to get some 70-degree water ready? Ideally, actually closer to 65.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. And this is a blend of the Samidori cultivar with Saemidori, Goko, Yabukita, and Okumidori. So it's actually 4 different cultivars blended together. And the goal here is to have that perfect balance of flavor where it has a nice amount of sweetness that's complemented by a healthy amount of acidity and bitters. And we find that because of how tea is produced in southern Japan, where they do a slightly longer steam time, it's often referred to as fukamushi, or deeply steamed. It's not like, I don't think they call it that locally. They just say it's well steamed. But in the context of the nation, it definitely is a lot deeper than most. I wonder if you can see that. Can you see in here? Yeah, that might be nice. Okay. So the viewers, I wonder if you can see okay. So we want to grab the Samidori blend. So in the background here, can you guys see this mill okay? So I'm actually going to mill some up. And this is actually where I milled what you guys are having.
Oh, wow. That's the mill, yes.
That's the mill running. And it's a little loud, so I'll move quickly here. And I'm
So mine's at about 69-ish, 68 right now, the temperature.
Perfect.
So I think we're all set on mine.
Okay, awesome. If you want to put 2 grams through the sieve into the bowl, that would be amazing. I actually just put my bowl on the scale. I tare it with a sieve on it. Okay. And then the problem is if you are using the same sieve for straining.
Yeah, I did. So I think I'm gonna go without sieving it, but normally I would.
You know, it's so much better to sieve. So what I would do is I would actually, guys, I would run and just rinse off the sieve and dry it with a paper towel, and then put it through the sieve.
Okay, sounds good.
This is a learned process here. Okay. So I've milled 2 grams of matcha. I'm gonna push it through. Again, Samidori blend, milled just this moment, using the leaves that we were just cupping. So I don't know if the viewers can see that okay, but that's the color. Really vibrant green.
Sieve.
You see that?
How many grams?
2 grams. Smells like chocolate. It smells so good.
Oh, wow.
Just amazing.
Single state matcha Samidori.
Now, for our viewers as well, know that matcha is quite powerful. Really good for speeding up your metabolism. So don't have it on an empty stomach. It will make you nauseous. But it can be used as a powerful tool if you let it. So before you came on, Sherry-Ann, Jim and I were talking a little bit about the healthful impacts of matcha and how much of a benefit they are for athletics. But I know you're also an athlete, but in terms of music, you also utilize it, matcha, just to power your day. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I accidentally forgot to put it through a sieve after all that.
Oh no.
Can I pour it out of the bowl again, or
is your bowl wet?
No.
Okay, then yes, you can, because normally you want to preheat your bowl anyway.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Matcha has been really helpful because I like that a serving is perfect for me. Like when I get up and I want to focus, and I just also want a little bit of a nutrient boost when I'm on the road.
For sure.
It feels very energizing, and sometimes when you're traveling, you don't have a lot of access. So if I wake up and I'm looking for like a little boost of nutrients, it's just perfect.
It makes sense, hey? And 6 hours of fatigue relief. You can't beat that. That's definitely a big reason I drink it. I drink it for that mental clarity and to help power my day in terms of the energy that it gives me that I otherwise might be lacking. What do you guys smell in the dry aroma there of the milled product? Are we picking up chocolate like I'm picking up?
One sec here.
Let me get this through here, and then. Oh yeah, the sieve is awesome. I haven't been using the sieve lately.
It makes a big difference. Yeah, it breaks it up so you have way less clumps. I find that the texture, huge improvement when we use a sieve. And then, how's it smell in there, Jim?
It smells a lot sweeter.
Yeah, right?
Than the Tencha did. Yeah,
it does.
It's interesting what opens up. Like, really, when you mill something this fine, and to qualify as matcha, it needs to be less than 15 microns, less than 10 ideally.
Mm-hmm.
You just get such an incredible access to surface area, right? Like there's so much more surface area.
Yep.
And it's really easy as a result for it to become quite bitter if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, this smells very smooth and a little brighter than the tencha, and sweeter.
Oh, it does definitely smell sweeter. I agree.
Yeah.
you guys want to pour 90 grams of water on top. Now, 70 is your hottest temperature you want it to be, but 65 is the ideal temperature you want it to be.
Oh,
We're in. I'm in already.
Lovely. Okay, so 90 grams of water on top of the tea.
90 grams.
So for our viewers, the recipe you can always check out on our YouTube channel. There's a section called How We Make Traditional Matcha at JagaSilk. It's a food service centric approach to making matcha. That's what we're doing right now. This is not tea ceremony. I encourage people to check out the Japanese cultural phenomenon that is tea ceremony. But it's definitely not what we're doing today. We're doing a tea centric approach to enjoying our matcha. This is a bamboo whisk called a chasen that each of us have. I think all of our chasen here are made by Mr. Kubo, a brilliant artisan that we work with in Nara, Japan. And you guys, when you're whisking, you want to draw M's to gather in the matcha. And you want to keep it to 15 seconds, but whisk vigorously in the center. And keep it perpendicular and really aerate it, so equal, really long strokes forward and back. And then once you've created a lot of air, you're going to draw those M's again too. Now, I say M's, but it's I joke that it's 30 million M's between walls. Your horizontal movement is quite slow, whereas your vertical movement is a lot noticeably faster. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then what that does is it allows you to have this really nice thick froth. I don't know if you can see that okay, but it's about 1 centimeter thick is kind of your goal for the froth.
Oh, froth better than normal.
Nice.
I don't know if you can see it.
How are we doing over there, Jim?
Yeah, doing okay.
Doing okay?
Mine's not as funny. Yeah, I think we're in there.
Nice.
I think we got some froth here.
Nice, very nice froth.
Oh, that looks good.
Yeah, it does look good. Okay, Jim. You gonna show off your froth?
Things just got really
Good.
Okay. All right, guys. So when you drink this, you want to drink it in 3 savored gulps is the ideal way to drink it. You can drink it however you like, but if you want to fill your mouth with 1/3 of the liquid.
Wow.
You get a really nice sense of that richness, that umami, and then you suck your tongue a little bit, and you'll be able to taste even more of that chocolate and the gentle acidity. And there's just so much going on with this particular selection.
Can you lead us through a meditation after this?
Well, we have our spiritual running coach here that might be.
Oh, cool.
And Cher, I didn't know if you knew this, but Jim is the Team Jaga sort of director. We ask him for advice on when we run, and he joins the team yearly. He's kind enough to join us, and he's a competitive runner, and he's actually won the TC 10K in the past.
Really? Wow.
And he had I love to just tell everybody. I already brought this up in the show, but he had the Guinness World Record for the beer mile. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. And you drink a beer, you do a lap.
It's dubious. It's dubious.
and I thought you said devious. Kind of is both. Dubious and devious. That's great. But you said it's I think you explained it's like an art, because you're not I don't know. I know you enjoy chocolate, wine, tea, but you're not like a raging alcoholic, and I think that's.
I think last year, so I competed at the Beer Mile World Championships last year in Berlin, and I think I drank 8 beers total last year, and 4 of them were in the race itself. So yeah, I don't drink a lot.
Right. So it's like.
It's more. Yeah, you're right. It's more the artistry of it. That,
you're saying there's the perfect way, the angle to drink it, so that it doesn't affect your system, and it was quite interesting.
Oh, and in Berlin, I can't really drink beer because I have a lot of allergies, but I was able to in Berlin, and they don't have a lot of the preservatives in it that we have here.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I wonder if they use a different wheat over there as well. I mean, I know that a lot of people that are able to or unable to eat wheat here are able to in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might make more sense that it's the more to do with the ingredients that they're using.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of like heavy monoculture here. I'm sure they do too for the big brands, but it's nice when you get into more of a craft approach, and you hear it in bread too, right? Like people that are allergic to bread, and they think that they have a gluten sensitivity, and many people very well do have it, but many people even more than that have a sensitivity to just this terrible monocropped wheat. On top of that, there's this stuff called azo that is a flame retardant that's often put into bread as a foaming agent. And so if it's interesting how many people, once that's not part of the equation and they're not eating, flame retardants, they working with wheat that perhaps is a heritage cultivar like Red Fife or something like that, and it just makes such a huge difference on how they are able to digest the food. And all along they thought it was this sensitivity to wheat, but in fact it was just the sensitivity to the
interesting.
Other things, including the pesticides used. So one thing, I don't want to go too crazy on it if you want to talk about other things, but one thing I noticed is I would get non-alcoholic beer in Berlin, and it was like I said it wrong. I said auxiliary elixir. It was a health drink, and it had all these vitamins added. In a lot of their beers, they even add vitamins sometimes, like B12 and things. And they have like this
really. It can be in your yeast too, right? The B12 vitamin.
Yeah, true.
Yeast, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think it wasn't even added then. It was just a very highly nutritious drink. Non-alcoholic beer was like actually not disgusting. It was like drinking a kombucha or something.
Well, there is this stereotype of people in Germany drinking beer instead of eating. So it's the barley sandwich. I'm sure it's not true, but yeah, no, that's awesome.
Most of my friends would do both at the same time, or to have.
That's good. I think we should all still eat, even if we're having beer.
And even if you're having matcha, while we're talking, I'm gonna grab a little snack.
Okay. What are you tasting there, Jim? In the whipped bowl.
A very similar profile to the tencha. So again, same thing, like very vegetal type flavorings. The edamame that I notice. There's sort of a bit of a saltiness, but very smooth. It's so similar to the tencha, but more of it, just more expressive. That it seems to linger on the palate a little bit longer as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It just kind of, it's like and I think that's why we need to cup our tencha in this way. Is I think that the flaws that we pick up in the really hot water that we use for the tencha cupping are enhanced and magnified in the cup. And I think that when those are positives, then exactly like you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and very, very smooth though. I think that's the biggest thing for me is that, when I first started drinking matcha, I had some that were a little more bitter, and that is not what I'm finding at all here. That and people that I've introduced the JagaSoak matcha to that have had similar kind of bitterness to their matchas in the past, have tried yours and have liked it when they hadn't previously. So
that's
they
always a lovely story to hear.
Yeah.
And it can be a number of reasons, right? Like a part of it is I like to tell people there's 3 major barriers between them and a good matcha. And by the way, that's really lovely to hear. I take that as a huge compliment to the program we have going here, that is happening. And I do think that though it's because of 3 things. One is definitely age. You could take JagaSoak matcha and it could be 2 years old. I think I could show you the difference between a fresh matcha and an old matcha, and that's one of the major reasons why somebody's going to have a good experience versus a bad experience with matcha is essentially age. So this isn't just like my competitor's matcha versus mine.
I have something to say about that if you don't mind.
Just 1 second, for sure. Yeah, or actually you can talk. This is just I just want to show you guys both this. So I'm going to show the viewers first. You can see that, guys. And then I'm going to show you guys, you know, so it's just side by side. It's like night and day, right? This is the oxidized, this is the fresh one, and this is the oxidized one. And oxidized one smells like old hay. It tastes really bitter and gross. And honestly, like, it's like night and day. So you were going to say something about that, Sharon?
Oh, well, actually, you know what? I'm going to do this right now. I was like 2 years old.
Right.
Oh, and I'm going to see what the color difference is in that from the JagaVision one.
Awesome. Okay.
Because this is interesting. The difference is very noticeable still, but not like the other one.
Can you see it? No. Let's see.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Oh yeah, I can see that.
It's not as drastic as the one you showed, but I will say that, believe it or not,
but it's there.
The 2-year-old JagaVision matcha that I found.
Yes.
It actually. Oh, can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, cut out.
Yeah.
The 2-year-old tastes a lot better to me than a lot of actually almost all the matcha I get when I order, unless it's like a specialty specific matcha bar.
Well, because the other, I was saying there's 3 barriers between you and a good matcha. One of them is definitely age. 2 of them, the second one is purity. There's a lot of added flavor and color enhancers, or it's mixed with sugar, and so you often get this and it's so commonly mixed with sugar and served as a latte in North America that some people don't. They say they don't like matcha because they don't drink milk, and I find that so sad, because what we're drinking right now, traditional matcha. This is usucha, like thin tea that they call it in Japan. It's quite strong for North America, but this is like the thin tea in the tea ceremony. This is definitely not the norm for most people in North America, and I find that, you know, it's sad, because there's such a medicinal opportunity here that's presented when you have it pure, that's lost when you have it with, you know, the norm is 85% sugar, 15% matcha, and that's really sad, you know. And then the final barrier between you and a good matcha is definitely technique. It's really easy to burn, or to whisk for too long, or to use too little or too much tea, or too little or too much water. You know, like there's just the technique barrier, and I mean that's true for coffee and for a lot of different drinks where you're responsible for an extraction, right? But
what sort of taste differences do you notice if the water is too hot, for example?
Well, I tell people that when we're brewing, we're curating flavors. So these flavors are definitely in there, and that's why when we cup, we can taste for flaws. And I think through really hot water, we draw out a lot more of the acidity, the bitter qualities. You're going to have a lot more. It's just not going to be as lovely at all. You won't taste the umami. That kind of gets destroyed, the protein. And you lose that brothy, rich quality that we're all tasting right now, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And you enhance the acid. Sorry, go ahead.
So a little bit about the flavor, but also about just the, you know, holding together some of the positive benefits of the matcha as well. So, Okay.
What were you saying there, Sharianne?
Oh yeah, well, I was just gonna say, like, this one is so smooth. Like, I'm so sorry, I forgot your name.
Jim.
Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Jimmy
works. There we go.
That works.
For some reason I thought it was Jim, and then I thought I heard Tim, so I was getting confused. So Jimmy, as you were saying, I think that this is extremely smooth. I noticed that when I burn matcha, it has a little bit of like it hurts my stomach, and it has a bit of like a seaweedy taste to it.
Yeah, and which is also enhanced when it's old, right? Like you get that seaweedy flavor when it gets old too. Yeah. And
it literally makes me nauseous. Whereas when it's fresh, I don't get that at all. I get a smooth, exhilarating, incredible, like almost like a green smoothie feeling, you know?
And let me tell you guys, when we got this mill in October 2018, and we were milling matcha for the first time, fresh in house and drinking it, the difference for how that made me feel as I was drinking it was, again, like night and day. Like I wish that I could share that fresh off the mill experience with everybody, because of just how monumental it is in terms of the flavor change. And I mean, it rests a bit and it finds a different flavor after about a week. Even faster than that. You could actually say within the same day there's a flavor change that happens. It's not a negative one. It's definitely just a different flavor. And I think that when it's freshly milled, I find this with spices too, they're a lot sweeter. And I think there's some sort of chemical reaction or like a reaction that happens with maybe the sugars in the tea that make it taste a little bit more like the sugars get more subdued. And I find fresh off the mill, it's a lot less sensitive to hot water, which is interesting. I can actually make the same tea taste delicious with a hotter extraction than I can a little bit later, where perhaps there's less of those sugars still present. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I find this when we're blending our chai too, that we'll mill spices for the masala chai or the masala rooibos chai or the green tea chai. And when they're really close to the mill date, it's a very different, powerful flavor. And when we originally were blending, we would have the blend based off of that powerful flavor, but then we would taste the blend a week later, and you couldn't taste the spices anymore. So now we have to purposefully blend too strong, if you were to taste it right away. But a week later, you get the reality of what it is. And so we've had to make adjustments for that. It's not a negative thing, but I can see why people get into, like, if you're working with fresh milled spices and it's like milled to order, it's going to be a different experience. And I think there's a relationship there with corn too. Like if you harvest corn and you eat it right in the garden, you know, it's like so much sweeter than if you take it and you let the sugars convert into starches. I think there may be some kind of relationship there, but yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
For both, I think there's a spiritual and a physical component. If you think about it, I was thinking about berries, like you said, and if you pick a berry in the morning and it tastes amazing right off the bush, I think it has, I would guess the physical component is it's like still attached to the plant, so there's like some protection there and like consistent nutrients being brought to it. And then when you take it off the plant, there's like surface area where it's exposed to, and then maybe there's also like a loss of like chi energy, like life force energy. So when you have matcha, it would make sense that you have the dried leaf and then you mill it, and then the surface area is exposed.
Right.
So physically, there is a more chance of even a slight oxidation. And then spiritually, like maybe that like opens up some of the chi of the plant that's been stored in there, so that it's open and ready for pretty much immediate ingestion for the most spiritual benefits from it, possibly. That's a guess.
That makes sense. Yeah, in a perfect world, we would probably mill. I'd love to just sell people tencha, and everybody had these little mills in their house, like like in the coffee world, and you could just mill it and have this freshly milled matcha. I think that would just be so amazing, but you know, it took us years to find a grinder that could meet the requirements of matcha. Like, it needs to be so fine that it rubs right into your fingerprints. That's 10 microns, right? Like,
Wow.
Otherwise, it's just not the same. Like, when you get into 15 or 30 microns, it's just, like, your tongue picks up on it. And you can even have the same size speck, but if it's not the right shape, like, we learned that even if you get down to less than 10 microns, if you put it through a burr grinder or a ball grinder, they call them in Japan, there's ball and burr, but you find that the shape under a microscope is square, whereas what we have is we have two plates rubbing together, mimicking the stone plates that you see in traditional milling. And in Japan, most of the time, everybody's using these traditional mills to this day because you just can't reproduce that flavor. And this mill that we have is from a company that produces mills. It's kind of their new space age model that they're still trying to convince people to pick up. And it's plated with titanium, because titanium doesn't hold heat as much as, say, stainless steel or even nickel that was the plating we had before. But how the plates are shaped and the way that it grinds it, you get a more circular shape under a microscope. And so then when that speck goes into the pores of your tongue, it's less noticeable, like it feels smooth. Whereas if you had that same speck size, but it was milled differently where under a microscope it was square, you'd actually sense the jagged edges on your tongue because your tongue is so sensitive.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? So So it's not only about getting that perfect mill size, it's about getting that perfect spec shape under a microscope to get that ideal flavor. Because matcha is not just a flavor experience. There's a very textural there's a big part of the experience that's all about the texture on the tongue, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. So
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've kind of gotten to our way past our time. I asked Jim for about 45 minutes to an hour of your time, and we've hit that moment right now. But we were talking today a good amount about your experience as a runner. We've had a chance to drink this matcha together. I just wanted to get some of your final thoughts, perhaps, on what we're drinking, on matcha in your life, and anything else you'd like to express to our viewers.
I mean, yeah, I guess probably most of it has been covered. I don't know what to add. Actually, to be honest, I mean, I'm a convert, so yeah. I mean, it's very important to me. Like when I travel, I take my matcha with me, and my aim is to have some every day. I think I guess one thing that I didn't touch on with respect of, say, running and so specific to me is the performance benefit of it. That there are benefits to having some caffeine, but also having this less sort of jittery form of caffeine that contrasting what coffee does, and so having something that is this more of a mellow kind of a lift. There are some studies that have shown that it improves maximal oxygen consumption, and so just getting the oxygen to the muscles and that's going to be a benefit for anybody who's trying to perform athletically. Sure. I think beyond athletically as well. I think it that enhances just mental sharpness and alertness and performance as well. But again, for me specifically as a runner, I would feel the benefit from that when I'm out moving and trying to perform, and especially as I'm trying to perform at a higher level, so running races or running harder workouts, that sort of thing.
It really makes sense.
But yeah, it's it's very important to me. I mean, there've been times when if I'd ever thought about, say, moving out of Victoria and thinking like, where am I gonna get matcha? Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I can't
free
leave.
shipping online.
I can't, and this is prior to me knowing that this was a possibility. But it's just like.
Well, you've been coming by the bar since before we even accepted electronic payment, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, there've been a couple things like
you predate this space age online stuff,
Totally. So yeah. I mean, there've been times I've kind of felt anchored, but in a good way in Victoria, because my matcha is here, and my Monroe's bookstore is here, and my chocolate store is here, and so like I've sort of got all the things that are really important to me.
Why would you move? Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that totally makes sense. Actually, Adam Creek, who's going to be on our show in a couple of weeks, he won gold medal in the Beijing Olympics as a rower on the rowing team. And he's been also talked quite a bit about the enhancement of his performance via matcha consumption. So it's really interesting to hear that perspective from a runner, to hear it from a rower. We hear it from one of the potters that we've worked with in the past, Harumi Ota. He talks about how much focus it gives him for when he's doing his pottery, and that gentle lift. And the same thing with the fellow who built our bar here, Jess Williams of Fusion Design Woodworks. He's got this really good approach to his art, but he also mentions just that lift that he gets from the matcha. So it's lovely to hear that you experience something similar, and that we're one of the reasons that you feel a connection to staying in Victoria, because we love to see you and we love running with you.
It's great seeing you. I always enjoy coming by. So yeah, again, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. Really appreciate you coming on the show today, Jim.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great.
Sherry Ann, do you have any final comments you'd like to add to the show? Or to Jim? Or
Jim, that was an amazing were some really, really amazing words there. I feel the same way, and I also feel that way when it comes to shows, because it's actually quite physical. I wouldn't have thought it when I kind of delved into music as a career, but it's really these kind of essentially like 5-6 hour stints when you're like setting up sound check and then you're playing, and there's just this kind of athletic nature to performance. And also you said it helps with the lungs and breathing and oxidation, so that's actually, I think, really good for singers too.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's just
sorry, go
a
ahead.
little bit goes a long way is what I was going to say. Sorry. I'm really sensitive to any kind of alcohol, caffeine, anything. And for me, like one matcha is plenty, and I love it, and I think it's delicious. And it has I love that it has buffers built in. I can't drink coffee. It's impossible for me. I feel like I'm having a mental meltdown when I have a whole cup of coffee. It's just too strong.
There's a lot of perspectives on why that happens too, but the L-theanine that's in matcha is a tranquilizer, and is often taken as an extract for people that have insomnia. It helps them to sleep. So it's interesting to see how it interacts with caffeine and helps to sort of slow down the release of the caffeine into the system, or to in some people it helps to actually even prevent it. Everybody's body's a little bit different. Some people get really tired from drinking matcha, if you can believe it. Some people get really wired. Most people, though, like 95-98%, anecdotally speaking, seem to just get this nice, relaxed, gentle energy and sort of an enhanced concentration from drinking it that seems to help in just so many areas. And be that from, I love this new info bit for me today is that oxygen element there. So thank you, Jim, and Sherry-Ann, for how that would interact not only as a runner but as a singer as well. So,
Yeah.
But thank you for coming on the show every week, Sherry-Ann. It's been really lovely to have you on. Huge appreciation for that. You can again, sorry?
Oh, I said likewise. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And viewers can find her show on Instagram, Facebook Live, or go and support her on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/sisterspeak. If you want to reach out to Jim, you want to go onto his webpage, jimfinlayson.com. Maybe he can get you a good regime with your running, with exercise, and making that a part of your life. But appreciation to you both for coming on the show. I really enjoyed having you and drinking the tencha and drinking the matcha as well. So, yeah.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right.
Yeah.
You guys have a wonderful day, and we'll hopefully everybody can watch this on our archive version of our YouTube channel as well, and get it check you guys out. So appreciation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jerry.
Take care.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. Again, I seem to be really good at making these shows go a little bit long. My goal is always about an hour, and I seem to go to the hour and a half world. But time flies when you're having fun. Hopefully, you've been enjoying these sessions as much as I have. We'll be going on the air again next week. We'll be meeting with Sister Speak again. Will be joining us, as well as the owner of Township Coffee here in town. We'll be talking to Eric Jensen. That should be a little bit too much fun. You can check out our webpage, jagasilk.com, and look into what is possible in terms of bringing in some teas and enjoying them with us here when we're running the tea bar. When we're holding the show, and see what tea we're going to be having next week. You can also go to our YouTube channel, which you're on right now if you're watching this video, but if you can click the subscribe button and say yes to notifications, then you'll know when our session is going live, and you can tune in and join us for the sessions. We're really close right now. I don't know what we'll be when you're watching this archived, but we're almost at 100 subscribers, and once we get there, we'll be able to have our own YouTube channel. So really hoping we get there soon. Thank you again to Sherry-Ann from Sister Speak, who joins us every week. And to Jim Finlayson, the competitive runner and coach who's been supporting JagaSilk for over 13, if not 14 years. That's huge. We can't believe how amazing that is. and massive gratitude for that. So if you want to go check out and support Jim and Sherry Ann, we'd appreciate it. You can also go onto our store, www.jagasilk.com/shop, and you can check out the matcha we had today, which is the Samidori blend by Takaki. One of my favorite selections, really, really beautifully put together. So thank you very much for joining in. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and we'll see you again next week, 1 o'clock, Thursday, and looking forward to it. Take care.